There was a moment in my life where several years ago where I was going through so much in my life, man. I was transitioning from the league. I didn't know where I was coming or if I was going. I didn't know what my next life was going to be. All I could think about is where I was. All I could think about was the situation that was going on in my relationship. And for those that know, I was going through divorce. And I'm thinking like, wow, I gave my heart and my soul to this entity called marriage and family. And now that's, now people have differences of heart and difference of opinion, decide to go different ways. And so that part of my life was uprooted. And then financially, I was in a situation where I was no longer making what I was making in the NFL. And so it's just a matter of time. If you don't have anything planned out or you're not as financially astute as you need to be, then it's just a matter of time when you're looking at what's going out and what's coming in. And there was financial pressure there. And, everybody knows about the 2008 when things went down, where we all got hit by it in businesses. And so I was under tremendous pressure there. And then even just physically, just me being in the NFL, and after that, your body goes through hits, it goes through different things and challenges and any different pain and different things that I may have had. And then socially, you think about it. Remember this, when what you do becomes who you are, when you stop doing what you do, you can lose who you are. And so basically, when a person when what they do becomes their identity, hey, I'm a football player, or hey, I'm a husband, or hey, I'm a father, and I'm just these things, then when you stop doing those things, or those things get interrupted, sometimes you can lose your identity, you can lose who you are. And so that can bring about a great amount of stress, because you're trying to find yourself, and sometimes people find themselves in different things. Some are good and some are not. And so sometimes people find it in the bottles, people find it in sex, people find it in identity, people find it in club, people find it in all these different things, because they're trying ultimately to find themselves. And so I found myself at this time where I was going through so much pressure, and it really felt like the walls of my mind could not protect me. I felt that I was under so much pressure that I couldn't find peace if I was staring at it. No matter where I went, remember, I had to take me with me wherever I go. I don't know what it's like for you, but there's some times that you can be looking great on the outside, but on the inside, it could be screaming. I heard an example where they call it in college and different sources, they call it the duck syndrome. And they say when you look at a duck on a lake, that duck may be just gliding along the lake. But if you look at that duck underwater, those feet are panicking. Those feet are fluttering. Those feet are going so fast, but you would never know, because when you just look at this person, when the person just sees you, it looks like you have it all together. But underneath and on the inside, you're hurting. You're going through. You wish somebody can understand the depths of your pain. You wish somebody can understand what is it like to be you. Sure, you may have this, you may have that. But if you don't have peace, you don't have anything. And so tonight, I just want to share with you, because I believe as I'm talking and I'm sharing some of these principles, that some of you guys, as I said, are going to hear me with your ears, and some of you are going to hear me with your heart. If I'm speaking to you, let me know. If I'm speaking to you tonight, if this message on experiencing peace is for you, if you tuned in at the right time, let me know. And so I want to share with you, everybody, if you don't know, I am a man of faith. And what that means to me is that I'm going to show you my faith, and then I'm going to share my faith. And by that I mean that I went through a great experience in my life that has really given me a tremendous amount of peace. And I call it being delivered from religion to relationship. You see, when I got delivered from religion to relationship, religion to me was a lot of what I experienced growing up. It was a lot of me trying to do the right things, me looking at the Bible, allowing the Bible and not really understanding it, but just looking at life from a standpoint of what do I do, what do I don't do. kind of measuring myself basically every day based off a standard that I've always felt like I didn't measure up to. And so oftentimes growing up in church, I really didn't understand. I remember going to church a lot of times and it really just didn't, it made sense, but it seemed like it was out of my grasp. It felt like this relationship was for somebody else because I didn't understand it. And so I struggled. I went through that. I would do all the right things, but I still felt empty. I didn't have a peace. And how many of you know that if you don't have an inner peace, you will definitely won't have an outer peace? And in the NFL, and I'm sure it's in your world as well, we become very professional Halloween individuals. That just means that we know how to wear masks very well. We know how to show like everything is going good, but really deep on the inside, things are hurting. And so when I went through these stages several years ago, when I got delivered from religion and relationship, what that meant to me, and as a man of faith, what that truly meant is I got a chance to understand it at the very simple level with my children. And I looked at my children and I said, these are my children. And my children don't have to do anything to be my children. All they have to do is just be. Now, I love them. I help bring them into this world. And I have great plans for them. I have great ideals for them. I'm here to help them, not to hurt them. I'm here to share with them gifts and wisdom and ideas and experiences that can really help them along. I'm here for them to know that I'm not here to demand or dominate their life, but I'm here to serve them and engage and encourage their life. I want them to know that when they need me, I'm here. I want them to know that I'm going to teach them some things in their earlier life that when they get older, it's going to help them make better decisions. And I'm also going to teach them that no matter what they do in life, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm always going to love them. And see, for years of my life, I didn't understand that in my relationship with God. Matter of fact, I didn't even know who God was. And at times, I even thought, I doubted, did I even believe in God? Was it only something or someone that I can see? Well, I can't see him. I can't feel him. So what does it mean to have a relationship with someone or something that you can't see and you can't tangibly feel? I didn't know. I wanted to know, but I didn't know. And so I did all the things I thought that religion taught me to do. But it wasn't until I got a chance to walk it out for myself, to where God started to show me through people he brought in my life. And one of them is on this form right now, Pastor Scott Delk. In California, I got a chance at the well. I got a chance to learn and just see love and hear love in a different way than I experienced it. I got a chance to see someone just understand the word and just share from a relationship standpoint. Not a religious, but a relationship. I got a chance to see somebody that walked with me through my toughest times in my life. They stood by me. They didn't judge me. In some way, it was as if they knew that the journey I was on, it was for me. And that it wasn't for them to take me out of it, but it was up to them to guide me through it. And so I went through that. And I don't know about what your relationship is like with God. And I don't know what your spiritual relationship is like. But what I want to share with you is that at the end of the day, without a true relationship, you'll have no peace. And so what I want to share with you tonight, and again, I'm going to continue this. I'm not going to be able to do all this in one night, but I want to share with you. And I want to share some of the inspirational passages that really means a lot to me. That when you meditate them, when you think about them, when you allow them to sit down in deep, I think about a tea bag. See, if you have a hot glass of water and you put that tea bag in that water for 1 minute and you take it out. You're still going to have tea, but it's not going to be as strong and concentrated and taste as flavorful. And the experience you feel and taste and enjoy in as much as if you allowed that tea bag to sink in that much more. And so the things that we share and the things that I'm going to share with you, you got to sit with them. I can't do it for you. I can't sit in this and meditate this for you. But I'm living witness that when you allow this truth about who you are, whose you are, and how your ability and why you are, then what it does is it opens you up and you start seeing things through a different set of lenses. Think about it. A couple series ago, we talked about perception. We talked about two people can see the same thing, but look at it totally different, their perspective. So that means we can both look at something that's meant to give us peace, liberty, joy, happiness. But we can look at it and never receive anything from it. And so again, it's about our perspective. As I share some of these points tonight, there's going to be things that's going to go on in the inside of you, and you're going to hear it. You're going to want to believe it. You're going to want to understand it. You're going to be like, man, I need that. That's true. But some way you may not feel it per se. And all that is, and I'm only sharing you from experience, is because whatever is deep on the inside of your heart, whatever's on the deep part that you've meditated on, you've thought about over and over and over and over, that is the part. That is ultimately where you are living. That is what you truly, truly believe. That means I can tell you the truth. I can share with you something that's liberating. But if the voice of your belief system, if the negative voice, the criticizing voice, the voice of reason, the voice of destructive criticism, if it's been going long, if the voice of your parents, a pastor, I'll share something with you. When I got drafted in the NFL, I got drafted on I think it was a Friday. That Sunday, I went to church, in a church back home in Camden, New Jersey. And I'll never forget, the pastor of that church, he got up in front of everybody and he said, Donovan, God is not going to be with you in the NFL. Can you imagine that? The authority figure from a spiritual standpoint, when you're at your most vulnerable place, understanding that my story of going to the NFL had nothing to do with the amount of money in the world or, doing a whole lot. It was about how can I provide for my family and my community. And so I wind up, I'm grateful that at that moment I was mature enough in my purpose that when those words came, I was able to bounce them off me because I knew why I was doing what I was doing. And I had a set of peace. And so I'm going to share with you guys in the much time that we have for the next 30 minutes, if you spare with me, some different things about establishing peace in your life. I'm going to share with you some things from the Bible. And as I share them, I want you to listen with different ears. And the ears I want you to listen to is not from a religious standpoint, not from a denominational standpoint, but I want you to hear me with your heart. I want you to hear me with you understanding that you are God's greatest creation. That means that there's nothing and nobody that can ever compare to you. That means that you are a person of unlimited potential who has never even tapped in to your ability. Those are the ears I want you to hear with tonight. And so number one of the things I think you don't understand in terms of establishing peace is understanding God's purpose. God has a purpose for everyone and everything. There is a purpose. A purpose is the reason why something exists. If you don't understand the purpose of something, then you'll automatically abuse it. The word abuse comes from the contraction word abnormal use. If I don't know why I am the way I am, I will abuse myself. If I don't know the purpose of my wife, of having a relationship, I will abuse her. I would abnormally use that relationship. If I don't know the purpose of me having the gifts and the talents that I have, I will abuse those gifts and talents. And so God has a purpose for everything. There's a scripture in the Bible. And when I read this Bible, I'm going to share something how I see this. This Bible is not a religious book to me. This Bible is my constitution from the place I was birthed from. And that is from heaven. That is the country, the spiritual country of where I was born. And this Bible was inspired. You know how you have a bright idea? Oh, it just drops in. This Bible was inspired and given to me so I can understand what my laws are, what I can expect, what is my ability, what is God's ability, my Heavenly Father's ability to me. What can I do? What should I do in my life to fulfill my life to the fullest and walk in peace? So when I read this, I'm not reading it from a religious standpoint. I'm reading it from a standpoint that, hey, just like gravity, whatever goes up must come down. That if I abide by these laws, these principles for life, then I'll live the life that I'm intended and supposed to live. But if I don't, then I'm going to experience some things along the way that are self-inflicted. And other things that I may not understand, I may be meant to go through them. And so understand that God has a purpose. And so in Exodus 9:16, it says this. It says, but I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I might show you my power, and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth. So remember this. God is in heaven, the country of heaven. We are here in the country of earth. We are here to bring forth God's culture, his likeness, his values, his principles. What's happening in heaven is happening here, should happen here on the earth. That's called a king. That's called colonization. When you do exactly what's in the home country and you're supposed to do and teach and implement that on the low one, on the smaller one. So it says, I've raised you up. So God is saying, he is saying, I've raised you. I've taken you through the trials and tribulations that you went through. Think about the things that you've been through. Think about the things that you thought was destroying you. Think about the heartaches, the pain, the things you had to overcome. He says, I've raised you up for this purpose. He says, and what is that purpose? That means, why did I go through this stuff? Why did I go through this hell? Why did I go through this trial and tribulation? Why did I go through this? He says, I raised you up for this purpose, that I might show you my power, and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth. His name is another word for his character, that God's character may be proclaimed in all the earth. And it just basically means that you can make it through it. And when people see you, and they see you overcoming, and they see you being victorious, they see you not losing your wit, they see you praying, they see you trusting, they see you believing, they see you walking by faith, they see you walking things out. He says that I might show you my power, and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth. His name is that, you know, man, my Father is great. How many things have you went through in life where you thought, man, I could not have made it if it hadn't been for God? If it had not been for his grace, I would have lost my mind. If it had not been for his grace, I could have broken my neck playing football. If it hasn't been for his grace, when I used to drink, that bottle could have took me out. If it had not been for his grace, I could have been in an accident. If it had not been for his grace, I would not be where I am. God says, I've raised you up for this very purpose, that he might show his power, and that his name may be proclaimed in all the earth. God's purpose can never be undone. His purpose for you, his purpose for me, can never be undone. In Job 42:2 it says, It says, I know that you can do all things. This is Job talking. He's praying, saying, I know that the one who created all things, God, you can do all things. He says, no purpose of yours can be thwarted. No purpose of yours, God, can never be confused. It doesn't matter if I don't know it or I do know it. His purpose for something will always come to pass. When we consider the one who made all things, that there isn't anything he can't do, he can't create, he can't make, he can't build, he can't restore, then there's nothing ever done by accident. God is always has a purpose for everything he does. Our very journey is about discovering and walking in the purpose that the one who made us has for our lives. Remember, our purpose and function of creation is always found in the mind of the Creator. The creator of a car, the purpose of that car can always be found in the mind of the person who made it. I don't care how far you've come in life. It is not until you understand that you're made for a purpose. And for this purpose, you're going through what you're going through. So God can be glorified and his name can be proclaimed. God's purpose is the one that lasts. Proverbs 19:21, it says, many are the plans of a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Think about it. He says, many are the plans. So that means my job is to create plans. My job is to plan things out. But at the end of the day, it says the Lord's purpose is what prevails. You say, well, wait a minute. How is it that I can plan things, but God may have another purpose? Is that when I get confused? Is that when I go through those situations where I feel like I really don't know? Because I plan things out. But it says the only thing that's going to prevail, the only thing that's going to succeed is God's purpose. Think of it, you say, well, wait a minute, why would God do that? Why would he do that? I'm going to relate it to relationship. Your children, our children. Do we teach them and show them every single thing in their life every day? We don't. There's some things that we must say, and then we got to take our hands off, and we got to allow them to learn it. It's some things that they can only figure out by going through it. It's only some things that they can grow and go and learn by going through the process. Well, God is the same way. He says, many are the plans of a man's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that's going to prevail. And so our life is about discovering and rediscovering our purpose. Because when we discover our purpose, there's peace. Because I'm now locked and loaded. I'm now locked and loaded. We say, but that's not fair though. It's not fair that I'm here, and why don't he just tell me what he wants me to do? He did. But he's allowing us the joy of the ride. You don't go to an amusement park and just stand at the end of the roller coaster and just get all the feedback from everybody that rode the roller coaster and listen to all the great things that they did. You don't feel enjoyed and empowered and a feeling of accomplishment by standing at the finish line and hearing how great the race was and the trials and tribulations. You don't feel any joy from that. But it's only when you go through that you get a chance to enjoy the ride. Just like our children. We want our children to learn. We want to learn. Our Heavenly Father wants us to learn. And so that means that when I can understand that life is not happening to me, but it's happening for me, it brings me peace. It lets me know I'm still on track. And that every negative situation or bad situation is not an indication that I'm doing something wrong, but it could be an indication that I'm learning and I'm growing, and that it's all part of the journey. And so we get a chance to understand that. And so when we understand that we're in direct partnership with the Lord of this universe, he's designed all things with a purpose, and he gives us the responsibility to think and act like kings and queens by designing our plans. So ultimately, the joy and pleasure comes when we have created the plans that match his purpose. The connections of two magnets happen when the positive is connected to the correct side. We can be assured that when our plans line up with his purpose, then a release of everything we need occurs. There's a peace in knowing that I need to walk this thing out. There's a peace in knowing. There's a peace in knowing that as I line up, God releases everything. And so remember that everything has a purpose. The second thing I want to share that can help give us peace is when we understand God's promises. See, God's promises, God's not like us. That means that we change our mind, man. One day we say we're going to do it, then we don't. But God doesn't do that. He doesn't change his promise. He keeps his promises. And when we understand that at the end of the day, we can go to the bank with two things: God's character, his nature, and his promises. Then that just means that no matter what's going on in my life, if I remember that the manufacturer gave me their name, their logo, their name of authority, and the warranty, then that means no matter what happens in my life, I can always call on this warranty. And so I'm going to read something in Philippians 4:19. It says, God will supply all of our needs. It says, and my God, the Creator, our Father, will supply every need of ours according to his riches and glory in Christ Jesus. That just basically means the Lord of this whole place, the Lord of this earth, the one who made it for his purpose, says he's going to supply all of your need according to the riches. Well, if you are the owner of something and somebody needs it, somebody needs something, and you own it, you have the liberty to give everything you have. And so the Creator of this world, our Heavenly Father, says that he's going to supply every need you have. You say, well, wait a minute, I think I need this. Where is it? He's going to supply every need that we have. And if we walk in life knowing that my needs are going to be supplied, and it doesn't happen right now, then there's a peace that comes when I realize that the timing is not now. And so at the end of the day, when we can trust the character of the Creator, when we can trust the promises of the Creator, then we can establish and experience peace. I wrote, God already knows that you need what you need, and he'll supply it because Jesus already paid the price for everything. Remembering that Jesus is the King and he is Lord, and he owes everything, and he gives to whomever he pleases. One of the reasons why God is a God of justice and fair is because at the end of the day, he can take from one and he can give to another. And when he gives us the privilege and the honor of serving him and walking with his name, it's one of the greatest things that we can ever have. In Philippians 4:6-9, when we're looking at having peace, he says this. He says, do not be anxious. He said, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And when you do this, he said, and then the peace of God, which surpasses all of our understanding, that means we can't figure it out how it happened, that peace will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. It says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about it. Whatever you learned and received and you heard, practice those things, and the God of peace will be with you. That is a loaded scripture. At the end of the day, One of the byproducts of having a righteous and noble king. That means somebody that says, I got your back. That says, I've sent you with my name. I've sent you to represent me. I've given you life, breath, health, strength, purpose, everything, because I want you to know that you can count on me. And so when we know that at the end of the day, when we know that, when we're sure of that, not that we got to work for it, but we have to work out our faith. That means we have to do certain things. That means we have to be certain people. Doesn't mean we have to be religious, but it just means that we have to follow our law. Whatever we reap, we sow. Cause and effect. Things happen. But when it tells us, don't be anxious about anything. You say, well, what'll keep me from being anxious when my bills are funny and my bills are late, or I don't have the money, or I'm going through hell? What'll keep me from being anxious when I'm going through these things? What'll keep you from being anxious is the fact that our King, the one who created us, our Father, our Heavenly Father, the one who's given us the breath that we hear, the breath that we breathe, and the ears that we're here. He said, don't be anxious on anything, because I got your back. He says, in everything by prayer, which is a conversation with God. We need to pray just as much as we need to breathe. And so as we pray, as we have a conversation with God, think about this. When you think about your prayer life, what does it sound like? Are you begging or you're expecting? Are you begging? Please help me in this. Or you're expecting based off of the promises that was given to you. That's Father, I don't know why I'm going through this, but I know that you say you'll supply all of my needs. And even though I don't understand this right now, I thank you that the answer is on the way. I thank you that all my needs are met. I thank you that you are always on time. I thank you that you're allowing me to go through this. And so I thank you for the good, the bad, the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs, the trials, the tribulations, and the triumphs. Because you're a good God. You're a Father that I can count on. You're someone who never changes your mind. And so when we understand that and we pray in that level of faith, there's a peace that passes all understanding. Is that how you pray? Or do you pray and in the depth of your heart, you're really believing it's not going to happen? Only you can answer that question. Only you can check your heart and say, what type of relationship am I having? What type of prayer life am I having? Because at the end of the day, that will determine a lot of what type of peace you're experiencing. God's plans for us are predetermined and good. Some people need to know that and remind themselves that God's plans for us are predetermined and they're good. That means that when a manufacturer makes a car, and I'm going to keep using what we understand, when a manufacturer makes a car, their plans for that car is predetermined. It's supposed to do this. And those plans are good. The manufacturer does not create those plans for that car to say that it's supposed to break down or to say it's supposed to fail. But what it does say, it does give you a guidebook and a handbook that says if you do these things, you'll get a greater experience out of this vehicle. God is the same thing. He says in Jeremiah 21, 9 and 11, he says, for I know the plans that I have for you, saith the Lord. He said, these are plans of good and welfare. They're not for evil. They're to give you a future and a hope. God has a future for you. God has a hope and a plan for you. God says his plans for you, nobody can change them. Nobody can interrupt them because his plans for you, nobody can interrupt or destroy what he already wrote. He's the beginning and he's the end. And he's already finished the story. But we have the opportunity to get on the ride. We have the opportunity to ride the wave, to experience it, to live it out, to believe or to not believe. And so do you believe that God's plans for you are good? Do you believe that God's plans for you, that you're created with plans that says that if you do these things according to the manual that operates your life on how do you maximize, how do we maximize our best use, do you feel and believe that you experience a good end? There's a difference between wishing and expecting. There's a lot of people wishing things happen. But how many of us are expecting? When you're expecting something to be in the mail, there's a certain way you approach that mailbox. When you're expecting food to be in a refrigerator, there's a certain way and belief that you go to that refrigerator. When you're expecting God to come through for you and to be a man, to be a person, a being of his promises, of his word, there's a certain way you're going to live your life. When you're expecting that the day is going to go right in that day, that people are going to do good for you, people are going to be here to help you, that things are going to work out. When you're expecting that, you go about life differently. You think differently. You act differently. You do things differently. When you're expecting, what are you expecting? Because to get emotional peace, to get spiritual peace, to get mental peace, what are you expecting? Do you walk around seeing the same saying that people say that, you know what, this must be too good to be true? Or here we go again? Whatever you're expecting will come to pass. It said you can receive all your desires. You can receive all your desires. What is the desire of your heart? Here's the reason why. It says Psalms 37:4. It says, delight yourself in the Lord. That just means delight yourself. Take pleasure in being kind. Take pleasure in growing. Take pleasure in going through trials and tribulations. Take pleasure in being better tomorrow than you was today. Take pleasure in being a man or woman of character. Take pleasure in giving. Take pleasure in serving. Take pleasure. Delight yourself in the Lord. And then he's going to give you the desire of your heart. Here's why that's so important. God is saying that he'll give you the desires of your heart. However, it comes with a condition and one result. In order to receive the desires of your heart, you must take pleasure in delighting or following the laws, the direction, and the guidance of the Lord. The guarantee is that as obedience and trust become pillars of our heart, then the results will be a heart that pleases and receives everything it desires from God. See, there's a work that has to happen in our heart. There's a process that we're all going through. And as we go through that process, we'll have a heart that's developed that pleases God. The desires that we want will be those desires that line up with his purpose. And so at the end of the day, God is for us because you can receive all that you desire. But you have to go through your process. You got to go through your work. Here's something else that'll give you peace. Know this. Everything will always work out. Romans 8:28 says, and we know this. How many of you guys think this? How many of you guys, possibly this? It says, and we know this, that for those who love God, all things will work for your good. For those who are called according to his purpose. So that means we can have a line of people lined up. And everybody may not raise their hand to go through the life that matches up with the Lord's purpose. That means somebody may raise their hand and say, you know what, I got this other purpose I want to do. I just want to be here and I want to make every bit of money that I can. I just want to make it big. I just want to be famous. I want to be known. But God's like, that's not my purpose for you. It can be a byproduct of it, but that's not my purpose. But it does say, everything will work out. Every good, every bad, every up, every down, everything you understand, everything you don't understand. Everything will work out for you. It says, for those who love God, those who love the manufacturer, those who love the one that made him, those who love his character, those who love to be developed into that. How many of you as parents says, man, really in your heart says, man, how would you feel if your child said, Dad, I want to be just like you, Dad. Or Mom, when I get older, I want to be just like you, Mom, just like you. How would that make you feel? How would that make you feel? I want to do what you say, Dad. I want to do what you do, Dad. I want to go where you go, Mom. I want to go and say what you say. Well, for some of us, that comment makes us really think about, wait a minute, what am I saying? I don't want my kids to say everything. I don't want them to do everything I do. Well, that alone right there is that part that God is taking you through. But God wants us, our Creator say, He wants us to have that yearning. I want to be like my dad. I want to be like the Father. The word Father means source. The word Father means sustainer. The word Father means identifier, protector, nurture. I want to be like my Father. I want to be like the one who made me, the one who made everything. Because at the very core, He is love. He is love. And so at the end of the day, He says, everything's going to work out for those who are called according to His purpose. And the last thing I'm going to share, as I mentioned, I'm going to continue this another time, and I'm actually going to put all this together for everybody. So again, it may be an encouragement to you and somebody else. Just know this. God's promises show us the right way. You can have peace. Understand that God's promises shows us the right way. The manufacturer's warranty shows us the way that we should drive this car. The manufacturer's direction handbook shows us how to get the most out of this electronic. God's manual for us shows us how to get the most out of us. And so, in 2 Peter 1 and 4 it says, by which He has granted to us precious and very great promises, so that through them, that mean the promises of God, you may be partakers of God's divine nature, having escaped from the corruption that is in the world because of sinful desire. Well, what does that mean? It says by which God gave us, He's given us something. He's given us precious promises. And it's like if I gave you this phone, I give you this phone. And by this phone has every answer to every question you ever have. This phone right here, inside this phone, when I find myself in a hard time or a situation I don't understand, I can go to this phone and I can have the answer right at the palm of my hands. God says by which He's given us precious and great promises, so that through them, the promises, what He gave us, we may be partakers of His divine nature. That means we can experience God's nature when we live life according to His promises. We can experience God's best for us when we believe God's promises, when we walk in God's promises. We can experience all God has for us when we are partakers of His promises. He says, having escaped the corruption that is in the world because of his sinful desire. That just means that the desires of this world, sinful means you missed the mark. That means desires of this world and the people, some of the ways that's happening around is built with greed, lust, sex, power, all these different things that are not the desire of God per se. They're byproducts of it. Money is not good or bad. It's just a tool. But if I start running after money, I've thwarted, I've confused the very purpose of it. But when I'm going after God, wealth can travel after it. Because if I need the wealth to do what I need to do, it's going to be naturally provided every day, every moment, every minute of the day. And so God says, how do we escape? How do we escape this world's way of the pressure on my mind? By taking part of God's promises. And so again, I'm going to wind up closing there, but I just want to encourage you as we look at what God has said to us. God has a purpose. We experience peace, mental, emotional, and spiritual peace, when we understand that the Creator, our Creator, has a purpose for everyone. When we understand that God's purpose cannot be undone. When we understand that God's purpose is the one that lasts forever. And when we understand that every person is born with a purpose, we experience peace. And when we understand that God will supply all of our needs every single time, He never fails. He is a promise keeper. And when we understand that God's plans are predetermined and they're good for you, then and only then can we receive all of our desires. Because everything will always work out and God's promises will always show us the way. And so I would encourage you today, remember that tea bag. If I sit in it for a little bit in that hot water, I'll get it, I'll hear it, you'll hear the message that I shared, and it'll come in, and the life situation will speak louder. But the way that you're going to grow, I encourage you, stay in the water a little longer. Meditate over it a little longer. Go back, listen to this every day. Every single day. Because every time you listen to it, you're going to hear something different. And then you're going to be challenged to do your work. I can't do your work for you. I can't meditate the Word of God. I can't remind myself, oh, our manufacturer's warranties for you. Only you can do it. But at the end of the day, His promises are sure. He never lied. He always keeps His promises, and His plans for you are good. And so listen, you be encouraged tonight. I want to thank everybody for watching. Definitely check out the feedback form. I'm going to go ahead and post that. So again, love to hear any encouraging words about tonight. We're going to continue this another time as well, and we'll continue to go. But I want you to understand this relationship. Understand this relationship. Being in this life doesn't mean we're not going through stuff. No, we're going to go through all types of stuff. But guess what? I got to get on that ride to enjoy it first, right? So let's enjoy your ride. Do your work. I appreciate it, man. Let me know what you thought about tonight. Fill out the feedback form. Okay, I'll be posting it inside this feed as well. Share this message, okay? Share this on your page. Let somebody else know from there, all right? Listen, you guys be blessed. Love you guys. And continue to keep believing, man. Walk this thing out. Walk in peace. Peace.